There's something quietly magical about the first few minutes of a morning. The world feels still, your mind is clear, and for just a moment, everything seems possible. Maybe you're holding a warm cup of tea, maybe the sunlight is creeping through your window, or maybe you're already scrolling through your phone. Thinking about that one person you want to reach out to first. That instinct, that little pull to connect with someone the moment you open your eyes, is one of the most beautiful things about being human. And today, we're going to make that moment even more meaningful. Because a simple good morning is lovely, but the right words at the right time, those can completely change someone's day. So if you've ever wanted to go beyond the ordinary and say something that actually makes someone smile the second they read it, you are in exactly the right place. Let's dive in. We all have someone like that in our lives. Maybe it's your partner lying next to you, maybe it's your child still buried under the covers, or maybe it's a best friend living across the city who you just have to check in with first thing. Whatever the relationship, the way you greet someone in the morning sets the entire emotional tone for their day. A flat, lifeless good morning gets the job done, sure, but it doesn't spark anything. It doesn't create warmth. It doesn't make someone feel seen, and that's exactly what we want to change today. Because with just a little creativity and the right phrase, you can turn an ordinary morning greeting into a moment someone actually looks forward to. The first phrase to talk about is one that works beautifully in person, especially if you're waking up someone at home, a child, a sibling, a partner, or even a parent. Try this: good morning, sleeping beauty. Now think about how that lands. It's playful, it's affectionate, and it instantly wraps the other person in a sense of warmth. You're not just saying wake up, you're telling them they're cherished, that you see them, and that you're happy they exist in your world. For children especially, starting the morning with something sweet and imaginative like this can completely shift their mood before the day has even begun. It turns the routine of waking up into something that feels a little like magic. Now let's move to something with a little more energy, because not every morning is slow and sleepy. Sometimes you want to inject a burst of positivity straight into someone's morning, and for that, this one works perfectly. Hey sunshine, it's morning time. Let's make this day awesome. Just read that back and notice how much is packed into one short sentence. The word sunshine alone carries so much weight. It tells someone they're bright, they're warm, they matter to you. And then you follow it up with a direct invitation, a call to action, almost suggesting that the two of you can shape this day into something worth remembering. Whether you send this as a text, say it out loud, or even leave it as a voice note, the energy it carries is genuinely contagious. People respond to enthusiasm, and when you lead with it first thing in the morning, you make it almost impossible for them not to smile back. But what if words alone aren't enough? What if you want to take the morning greeting one step further and pair it with something tangible? That's where this next phrase becomes not just a greeting but an entire experience. Wakey wakey, eggs and bakey. It's silly, it's lighthearted, and honestly, it works precisely because of that. Imagine waking up to your partner standing in the doorway holding a breakfast tray, saying those exact words. The combination of the effort behind the gesture and the playfulness of the phrase creates something that no generic good morning text could ever replicate. It shows that you thought about them, that you planned ahead, and that you wanted their first experience of the day to be something genuinely good. And while the breakfast might vary, the feeling it creates absolutely does not. There's another layer to morning greetings that often gets overlooked, and that's the idea of freshness. Mornings are the only time of day that carry an inherent sense of renewal. Everything feels new, untouched, full of potential. So why not let your greeting reflect that? Consider this one: hey, good morning, dewdrop. The imagery here is quiet but powerful. Dewdrops are those tiny, perfect beads of water that rest on leaves and grass in the early hours, glistening, clean, and completely fresh. When you call someone a dewdrop, you're essentially telling them that they bring that same kind of clarity and calm into your life. It's subtle, it's poetic, and it's the kind of phrase that lingers with someone long after they've read it. Not every morning greeting has to be loud or energetic. Sometimes the gentlest ones leave the deepest impression. Not all the people in your life are close enough to reach with a hug, and yet distance should never stop you from making someone feel wrapped in warmth. For the friends and loved ones who are miles away, the ones you wish you could just pull into a spontaneous morning embrace, this next phrase does something beautifully simple. It carries the hug to them through words, "Hey, a morning hug coming your way," and here's where you can have a little fun with it. Stretch out the letters, add some extra A's, throw in a string of Y's at the end of way, make it feel loose and casual and real. Because sometimes the most meaningful messages are the ones that don't take themselves too seriously. They feel like the person sending them is grinning while typing, and that energy travels. It reaches the other person and makes them grin right back, even before they've had their first cup of coffee. Now, let's talk about the kind of greeting that comes with a wink built right into it. This next one is casual, breezy, and just a little cheeky, and it works because of what it leaves out rather than what it includes. Try saying this out loud: "Mornin', good lookin', notice anything." Both words are deliberately incomplete. The G is gone from morning, and the G is gone from looking. That small act of dropping the ending makes the whole phrase feel relaxed, familiar, and effortlessly cool. It's the kind of thing you say when you're comfortable with someone, when formality would actually feel strange, when you'd rather make them laugh a little than impress them with perfect grammar. Language doesn't always have to be polished to be powerful. Sometimes the most effective words are the ones that sound exactly like you. And speaking of sounding like yourself, there is something genuinely special about reaching across cultural lines just to say hello. Languages carry entire worlds inside them, and when you borrow a word from another tongue to greet someone, you're doing something quietly extraordinary. You're saying that the world is bigger than one language and one way of doing things. So try this: hola. How did you sleep last night? That single word, hola, which is simply hello in Spanish, transforms an ordinary question into something that feels unexpectedly fresh. And the question itself, asking about their sleep, shows a level of care that goes beyond surface-level pleasantries. You're not just acknowledging that a new day has arrived. You're showing genuine interest in how they experienced the hours before it. That curiosity, that small act of asking, makes people feel valued in a way that good morning alone simply cannot. One of the most creative ways to make a morning greeting truly memorable is to tie it directly to the day of the week. Each day comes with its own mood, its own rhythm, its own set of expectations, and when you acknowledge that in your greeting, it shows a level of thoughtfulness that most people simply don't bother with. Take Monday, for example. For millions of people around the world, Monday carries a particular weight. The weekend is over, the to-do list is back, and the dreaded Monday blues settle in before the alarm has even stopped ringing. But what if the very first message someone received on a Monday flipped that entire narrative? What if instead of dreading the day, they were invited to see it differently? That's exactly what this phrase does. "Hey, morning, it's Miracle Monday." The alliteration alone makes it satisfying to say and even more satisfying to receive. And by framing Monday as a day of miracles rather than misery, you're not being unrealistic. You're simply choosing to lead with possibility instead of dread. The same creative energy can carry right into Tuesday with just a small adjustment and an equal amount of warmth. "Hey, sweetie, have a terrific Tuesday." Now the word sweetie adds a layer of personal affection that makes the greeting feel intimate, not generic. And terrific Tuesday gives the second day of the work week an identity, something to hold onto. These kinds of greetings work so well because they're specific. They don't pretend every day is the same. They acknowledge the particular moment someone is living in and meet them there with a little color, a little joy, and a sense that someone out there is rooting for them to have a good one. It's worth pausing here to appreciate just how much power language actually holds in these early morning moments. Think about what it means to receive a message that was crafted specifically for that day, that moment, that version of the morning you're both sharing from different places. It signals effort. It signals that someone thought about you before the day had a chance to pull their attention elsewhere. In a world where most communication is rushed and half distracted, a greeting like that stands out completely. It becomes the kind of thing people screenshot, the kind of thing that stays in the back of their mind through meetings and commutes and the long middle stretch of the afternoon. Now here's one that manages to be sweet, motivating, and just a little bit poetic all at once. And it works especially beautifully for the people in your life who take a little extra time to fully wake up. You know the ones? They hit snooze twice. They sit on the edge of the bed staring at nothing. They shuffle into the kitchen looking like they're still somewhere in a dream. For those beloved, gloriously slow morning people, try this. Hey, sleepy eyes, it's time to rise and shine. There's a gentle playfulness in sleepy eyes that doesn't judge or rush them. It simply sees them exactly as they are in that moment and smiles about it. And then rise and shine adds just enough brightness, just enough forward motion to nudge them out of the fog without any pressure. It's the kind of greeting that makes even a reluctant morning feel a little warmer, a little softer, a little more worth getting up for. You can also take any of these greetings a step further by adding a closing line that wraps the whole message in genuine affection. Something as simple as sending you lots of love at the end transforms a morning phrase from a greeting into a gift. It completes the emotional arc of the message. It tells the person that this wasn't just something you typed out of habit, but something you meant, something that carried a real feeling from you to them. And in that small addition, the entire tone of the morning shifts. The recipient doesn't just feel greeted, they feel loved, and that is a completely different experience. What makes all of these phrases work, whether they're playful or poetic, casual or heartfelt, is that they each carry intention. They each require you to think for just a moment about the person on the other end, about who they are, how they feel in the morning, what would make them smile. And that act of thinking about someone, of choosing words specifically for them, is itself a form of love. You don't need a grand gesture, you don't need to write a paragraph. You just need the right phrase at the right moment, and suddenly a completely ordinary Tuesday morning becomes something someone remembers. It's easy to underestimate how much a morning greeting can shape the hours that follow it, but think about your own experience for a moment. Think about a morning when someone reached out to you first, before the day had a chance to feel heavy, and said something that made you feel seen. Something that made you laugh or blush or simply breathe a little easier. Chances are that morning felt different from the rest. You carried that feeling into your first task, your first conversation, your first decision of the day. That's the quiet, underappreciated power of a good morning done right. It doesn't just start a conversation, it sets the emotional foundation for everything that comes after. And the beautiful thing is that none of this requires a lot of time or effort. It doesn't demand some elaborate plan or a perfectly crafted message. It just asks for a moment of presence, a second of genuine thought, and the willingness to say something a little more meaningful than the first thing that comes to mind. Whether it's good morning, sleeping beauty for someone you love waking up across the hall, or hola, how did you sleep? For a friend living in another city, or it's Miracle Monday. Let's make it count for a colleague who you know dreads the start of the week. Each of these phrases is a small but deliberate act of connection. And connection, especially in those quiet early hours, is what makes life feel worthwhile. So here's a small challenge to carry with you from today. Tomorrow morning, before the day rushes in and fills every corner of your attention, take one extra moment before you send that greeting. Choose something from what you've explored here or let it inspire something entirely your own. Think about the person, think about what they need to hear, and then send it. Not because it's a grand romantic gesture, not because it needs to be perfect, but simply because you can, and because it matters more than you might think. The right words at the start of someone's day are never wasted. They travel with that person quietly all the way to the other end. And on the days when everything feels a little harder than it should, that small act of kindness might be exactly what holds someone together. So go ahead, make someone's morning. You already know how.